This is the Dell XPS M1210, and it was one of the first laptops to combine both performance and portability. Before this, you'd have to seriously sacrifice on all of those. For example, the Sony Vaio computers of the early 2000s that were super small but were rocking no better than Intel Atom processors, or the cheap netbooks of 2008. But in late 2006, Dell came out with the laptop XPS M1210, and it seriously changed the game. If you were willing to pay up, you could have a dual-core processor, dedicated graphics, and upgradable RAM and everything, all in the 12-inch laptop package. But what does this XPS have inside of it exactly? Well, let's find out. Inside of this Dell XPS M1210, we have an Intel Core 2 Duo T5600 paired with 3GB of RAM and NVIDIA GeForce Go graphics, with only 64MB of onboard VRAM. The CPU was upper mid-range back in the day, with the maximum CPU you could put in this thing being the T7600. But the graphics card was not so much. It was basically the lowest end thing you could possibly put in a laptop back then, not even having the 128MB of VRAM it was supposed to have. Its GPU launched in early 2006 on a 90nm process, and is only using DDR3 for its VRAM. And of course, being as old as it is, it can only play DirectX 9 games and older, which severely limits the kind of modern game you could do on the system. But we're getting ahead of ourselves a bit. For a laptop of this size, it has a surprising amount of I/O. You have 4 USB 2.0s, VGA, S-video output, Ethernet, Firewire, fax, an SD card reader, and a full-size DVR-W drive, which is an absolutely stunning amount of I/O for a laptop of this size. So anyone saying that you simply can't fit I/O on modern laptops is eating a load of garbage, considering that Dell back then was putting the SD card under the DVD drive. The input devices on this laptop are about as good as they can be given the footprint of this laptop. For example, the trackpad extends all the way to the bottom, but it's still super small and cramped, with also having small, mushy buttons. The keyboard, however, is actually pretty decent. For being such a small laptop, it still packs full-size keys and feels very similar to the typing experience I'd have on my Inspiron E1505, which is very comfortable. And I also really like the silver finish on the keys, which gives it a more uniform look on the bottom. However, moving up front, we see the reason for the XPS M1210 name, with a 12.1-inch high-definition screen. However, it's not the best screen you'll ever see by a long shot. It's even more washed out than most TN panels are, and the response times are slower than I expect for a TN panel in the first place. But at this screen size, it still remains reasonably sharp and totally readable in direct sunlight, even if it doesn't get completely bright. Up top, you also have a 1.2 megapixel rotatable webcam that's available on some models, which my other XPS M12 also has, except that one isn't working. Below the screen though, you have some very mediocre speakers. Ironically, probably one of the best placements of speakers used in the worst way possible. They're firing directly at you, but they sound so tinny that I literally couldn't listen through anything through them except for maybe like audio narration. But considering the chassis they had to fit everything inside of, I could almost forgive that. However, having a decent media experience isn't all but lost on the XPS M1210, considering you have dedicated mic and headphone jacks, and have plenty of video outputs to support your needs. Additionally, the dual-core processor can easily play back HD videos locally, and even some online. You also have Dell's famous blue media keys below the trackpad, which makes controlling your media a breeze, even when the laptop is completely closed. But this iconic 12-inch laptop still works 15 years later, so let's see what this iconic Dell laptop can do in 2022. But needless to say, back in 2006, any customer willing to pay 2 racks or more would have had a pretty good laptop on their hands. But I think that the moral of the story is that modern laptops show us that you don't have to make these kind of compromises to make a really decent laptop. For example, the new XPS 13 Plus and the MacBook Air, which are both very thin and light laptops that provide exceptional performance without much compromise. As you can see, the XPS M1210 offers exceptional performance for its time. However, as things have aged, we clearly see the weaknesses of this laptop, mainly the graphics card. Literally nothing has 64 megabytes of VRAM now. Even modern iGPUs have something integrated or will feed off the regular RAM. And fun fact, despite me being able to go past 3 gigabytes in the Inspiron E1505, for some reason the chipset's different on this laptop and only let me do 3 gigabytes max, which severely limits your options of operating systems, as Windows 11, for example, requires 4 gigabytes of RAM. And during an era where you can get something like an HP Stream or a Chromebook or any myriad of used laptops that outperform this laptop, there's really no reason to buy this thing other than for novelty factor, which is the reason I bought it. Because this is just such a cool laptop. You really don't see anything like this anymore. Sure, laptops are small and light now, but they've all become ultrabooks. I mean, nothing is extremely gamery or anything. I think that might have kind of died off with the Alienware M11X back in 2011. The important thing to realize about a laptop like this is that it served people back then. Because of course we don't have M1 Ultra processors and super efficient Core i7s these days. I mean, the Core i's didn't even exist back then. The point is that people were able to get by with these laptops, and they were actually able to do quite a lot because of the engineering feats they managed to pull out of this laptop. And really, this is what XPS is all about, with Dell's lineup of XPS products. It's about pushing the technological boundaries in many ways as possible. I mean, back in 2015, the Infinity Edge display was basically something brand new. A completely bezel-less laptop, we've never heard of it before. Today we have the XPS 13 Plus, which offers amazing performance and a sleek and light form factor, and it offers a stunning take on modern laptop design language. And it's important to realize that this laptop isn't without flaws. For example, the really bad speakers, and the cramped form factor of this laptop in general, plus the bad screen. These are all things that we fixed with modern laptops. But for the time period it lived in, this was perfectly good. Lots of people bought these and sold these. They're kind of hard to find on eBay, but when you do, you can tell that people have used them a lot. For example, mine was absolutely covered to the brim in crap before I cleaned it all off, which left several paper towels completely black. And despite the absolutely bonkers slow hard drive, I was able to easily replace it with an SSD. And that's not something you can say about all laptops these days. Where they'll be in 15 years is probably e-waste. But let me know your experiences with small Dell laptops in the comment section below. Without any further ado, this is Calc G, out.